Alright, today I'm going to be working on the front lights and these marker lights. I'm going to do them a little bit different. I have these pre-made connectors so I can make quick disconnects if I ever want to take off the bumper or do whatever. I'm actually going to probably wire these in with the fog lights or the light bar that I did yesterday. So these have a big hole in the back of them, so I'm probably just going to use strip lights again in these. The same strip lights I've been using for everything else. They seem to put out really nice, and they're pretty bright also, so we'll see. After opening these up, I'm probably just going to use the same cardboard I used for the roll bar lights and just make a little template so that it fits down in there and holds steady. Because if this didn't have this ridge in here, I'd probably just stick them on the back of there and it'd light it up pretty good. But we'll do 2, maybe 3 strands of the strip light. We'll go from there. Okay, I made a template. I pulled the lens out right here, out of the front side of this. So I made a template, and then I will take and set this on there so I know where to cut out for the posts that go down into the back side of this. So I just set the lens back on it, and I'll be able to make my holes right here, here, and here, and that way I'll be able to make sure it fits in good. So I got my template set in. Had to cut a little bit off of all the way around so it fit in there nice and snug. It looks like I can put 4 of these strip lights on here, so I'm going to lose a little bit of a light because of the grill that's on this. There's really no way to take it out, and it adds more to the look for the rock protection on a normal Jeep. So I think maybe 4 lights. It's going to be a lot of wiring. I got to see how I can hide it so maybe you won't see it through the lens. Well, but if it has the lens and that on it, I doubt you'll be able to see all the wiring inside, but we'll see when I get closer to finishing. Light gauge wire. I mean, these things aren't going to pull enough to worry about big wire. So I have this real small, probably like 22 gauge. And then that way I can do my jumper wires and kind of like bend it to shape so that I'll use less wiring. Okay, so what I ended up doing, I'm just making like little horseshoes, or that way, and then I'm coming in one, out the other until I get to my very end. 2 of these together was pretty bright, but we might as well be obnoxious with it and do 4. So 4 in that little tiny light is going to be pretty blinding. Okay, there's one of the first modules done. So we got power coming in, and then it just zigzags. The nice thing about doing it this way is I can straighten this out and put my heat shrink on each piece and then put it right back together. Plus it gives me a little bit of flexibility on my spacing. So I can evenly space them because these wires are flexible enough that it'll give me room to change it. So I just had to cut like a little notch out of the cardboard so it could go back and come out the hole. So I kind of evenly spaced them. That one's a little crooked, but I had to push it in to get my wires away from that. but all the screw holes will hit fine and nothing else will damage the setup. So I want to finish putting it together and then I will hook it up and we'll see what it looks like. Alright, since I only have one hand, I went ahead and hooked it up to my 12 volt, and you can kind of see it's already pretty bright. Let's turn her over, and there's what 4 of those does. Shine on the wall a little bit. So you can't really see any of the wires in it. If I take it loose and you look in there, being that that has a white lens, it pretty much hides everything inside. So now I have to repeat the process. So I skipped making the other light, and since this was so easy for my running lights, so it'll just sit in there like that. I used one of my pre-made connectors, and I just ran a bit of heat shrink on there and then put a bigger piece to go around the connection there. So these will be hanging out behind the bumper, so it'll make it look a little bit more factory, but they should be pretty bright. The more and more I was thinking about this, I should have redid this one, because it has just 2 wires coming out the back. And after I did these for the marker lights, I figured, well, maybe I can just go in, but I've already sealed this hole up with a little bit of hot glue. But these sit on the bumper and go right down behind it, so I don't think it'll be a big issue with wiring. Just not as clean as I usually like. If it bothers me too much, I'll just redo it. So I don't know if I can do this with one hand, but basically I take my whatever center wire is and I just bend it over a pin. It gives me a decent little horseshoe, and then I can adjust it from that. And then that kind of gives me a guide for my second wire. Let's see if I can do it one-handed. Oh. But I just basically guide it around that wire, and that gives me a good another bend for that one. So it makes it really easy to set up. Just how I do it. So maybe it'll save some time if you try it. And I was able to get a pretty decent bend. So I'll just cut that, strip it, tin it, and then put it on, and then repeat going all the way up. Just another quick tip. Every time you add one, go ahead and check it, because you'd hate to get all the way done with everything and then this one and this one be bad, or this one was bad and then the rest 3 don't work because you didn't check it. So every time I get done with the connection, I go ahead and plug it in, give it a test, and then go from there. So got one more to go. Still have to make a template for this one, and then I'll be done with my wiring today. Probably about an hour's worth of work. I got these 4 lights done. Still using this strip light, so I mean this is a very easy project. I mean, some of this stuff I already had laying around, but you could just dead wire on it. But I mean, the LED strip is only like 16, 17 bucks for 2 16-foot rolls, and I've used this for other things, and I hardly even touched it. I mean, here's a last bit of my LED strip. Some of it I used. We do a podcast, and I just made like a little light diffuser out of it. Just used a paper bag, and it does a really good job of just illuminating facial features and like a little DIY. But in the next few days, I will have a install video. I'm waiting on a couple things to come in. I got rock lights coming in for the wheel wells. I have dual batteries, so I'm running a 12 volt 9 amp hour, which I had to upgrade the charger, so I'm waiting on that charger, and then a couple other little things. So stay tuned and like and subscribe, and I'll keep building on this Jeep.